Aloha and shalom. We're here for the first quarter activation, April 2022. So for those of you returning to the activation portal, welcome back. We've been doing these readings every week for many years now. And for those of you who are coming for the first time, thank you and welcome. So the first quarter activation is all about being 1 week into a 4-week cycle. Last week was the new moon, but it's not really about the moon. It's about what is the moon reflecting to us, because we're all reflections of the one. So the moon is just showing us the shape that is representing where we're at in this current cycle. With the new moon last week, it was a new beginning. We are 1 week into this process. Where are we at? So I'm just shuffling the deck, which represents shuffling up the different perspectives of the mind, letting go of our rigidity, our own ego's thoughts, jumbling it all up so that we can get in touch with the truth, okay? Each of these cards represents a different part of our own mind, our own individual as well as collective mind. So when we shuffle, we're just waking them up, mixing them up, saying hello to each of the parts, activating them. As usual, I'm tuning in from the awesome Sedona, Arizona. Let me know in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from. And then I invite you to imagine in your mind's eye, like you're looking at the earth from outer space, and you see each of these places, as people type them, lighting up all over the world. We're just lighting up the world right now. Where in the world are you tuning in from? And while we're live, feel free to share this video with your family and friends who are on Facebook, or maybe you have a favorite group or somebody who could use a message of inspiration right now. Arizona's in the house, Kentucky's in the house, France is in the house, London, UK. So again, go ahead and share before we begin, or you might want to wait till after this video gets loaded, the recording gets loaded to YouTube and Instagram, Rebecca Magic. So if somebody's not on Facebook, you can still share the video with them from any of these platforms. It's also Shabbat, so I just finished giving the Kabbalistic interpretation of the current Torah story. If anyone has an interest in hearing that, it's on facebook.com/royalpathtarot, where you'll also be able to find it on YouTube and Instagram. Also, the videos and more information that you don't see on those pages gets loaded to our private group on Facebook. It's called Shabbat Crew. So if you're wanting more, go ahead and join our private group. I'm just shuffling the Hebrew cards now. They look like this. And they work the same as the tarot. They each represent a specific part of the mind or a particular piece of archetypal wisdom as it relates to that part of the mind. Each part of the mind. Wisconsin in the house, Switzerland in the house. We got the whole world in this present moment here now. Cheers. I love you. I'm so glad we're together. So I'm going to begin. And thank you in advance, archetypes, faces of the one. Thank you, one and all, for the message that's about to come through for us. And I just want to specifically state out loud our shared intention that we are going to use this message for the greater good of all as one. So we're not here pulling cards for any one of us individually. We are pulling cards together as one, and together as one, we are going to use this information for us all as one. And when we affirm that to the universe, we're just confirming that we're going to use this knowledge for a higher purpose. And in that way, all the tools that we need to carry out this work comes right to us. It's rushed to us, everything that we need to accomplish this work. Because we are, with our conscious awareness, setting the intention to use it for good. And life supports life. God helps those who help themselves, right? You've heard this before in many different ways, many different words. It's all the same concept that when we choose to support life, life supports us. We support the elements support us. Thus, the process of life becomes more graceful, and we move through it with more ease and less crisis. So thank you. The current focus this week, which is known as the challenge and the gift, boom. I'm going to pull something we're moving toward as well. Just a vision of the future. That's with the tarot. And then with the Hebrew letters, we're going to pull, as usual, the ally of the week. I feel like it's this one sticking out here. Okay. Beginning with the focus. And I love this. Wow, so many of you still tuning in from around the world. Awesome. I love this because this is a card I pulled this morning for a one-on-one reading. And every time I'm going to do the activation, I really look at who the person is that I'm reading for that day, because it's always such a peek into what the collective is going through, because we all reflect each other. And this was one of the 2 cards pulled for that reading. And here it is. The 5 of Swords. This is our focus this week. It's also the challenge and the gift. It's the 5 of Swords. And swords is the suit of challenges. The primary elemental association to the swords is actually earth, although you'll see in modern tarot books and modern tarot teachings that swords is associated with the mind. I'll tell you a secret, and more about it is in my book, Royal Path 2, about the elemental suits. Each of the suits has all of the elements in them. There's simply a primary element to consider. There's an order in which you want to consider the elements as you're deciphering the message. And so there is a manipulation in modern tarot that I'm very passionate about breaking through, and I share that in my teaching. So it is in Royal Path 2. If you want to know more about this, just reach out and ask, okay? So we're talking about Earth. We're talking about the physical reality when we first look at this card. This is the card of disappointment, feeling unfulfilled, feeling defeated. Keyword defeated. But first we want to consider, okay, let's consider in the material realm, in the physical sense, because right then and there, we can acknowledge, although this is a challenge, and although I may be feeling something negative per my own judgment, it's also impermanent, because the material world is impermanent. So when we consider that element of the earth first, it right away relaxes us and gives us an element of detachment from the challenge itself, so that we can rise above the pain to a more clear and whole perspective to be able to examine why this challenge is really upon us. So this is the focus of the week. Why are we feeling defeated right now? What may have unfolded for us in the recent past that has left us feeling defeated? Maybe you feel you've accomplished something, but it's not as fulfilling as you thought it would be. That's also defeat in a way. It's about coming to this point and not feeling fulfilled and or feeling absolutely defeated. And the swords that he's picking up are representing this idea that we have to pick the pieces back up. We have to put ourselves back together. But remember, if we put ourselves back together in the very same way, we're going to attract the same problem. What's the famous Albert Einstein quote? You can't solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. That's like a key quote for this archetype of the 5 of Swords and where we're at right now. So really let that quote sink in and maybe journal about it, put it into your own words. Make it, put it into words that really touch you, really touch your heart, really touch your being, and let it sink in. So how can we look at where we don't quite feel complete, we don't feel accomplished, we don't feel fulfilled? Or maybe you're saying, I feel very fulfilled right now. Look, there's always a deeper level to reach. So ask, what do I need to feel more fulfilled? Okay, so you either ask yourself, where am I feeling defeated? Or where can I feel even more fulfilled? It's still the same archetype. We're just experiencing it to different degrees. So ask yourself, where am I feeling defeated? Or where can I feel more fulfilled? Now, pick the pieces back up or put the pieces together in a way that's going to get you to that fulfillment, in a way that's going to get you out of the feeling of defeat, out of the experience of self-victimization, and into a progressive flow. Turn regret into resolve. Looking at your situation as saying, I feel defeated, I feel defeated, I feel defeated, is going to keep you in the frequency of defeat. What's worse is if you start to cultivate shame and guilt because you're looking at where you feel defeated and you're saying, I did this. Why did I do this? Oh, I regret this. Those are all signs that you're experiencing this archetype in more of the challenge aspect than the gift aspect. So when you feel that defeat, don't judge it. Be grateful. Give thanks for that feeling, because that feeling and all feelings are guiding you to the truth. Recognize where you feel defeated and simply let it guide you to the awareness of why I feel defeated. What decisions should I not regret, but what decisions should I analyze so that I make sure that now that I'm ready to move ahead, I don't make those same decisions again, which are going to lead to the same results. And the tarot is a sequential story. So you always want to look to where you're going next. The Six of Swords is a man, a woman, and a child. They're in a boat. The man's rowing the boat. The woman and the child are being carried to smoother waters. So it's saying that whatever defeat we experience, there is always the opportunity to move on to the other side. Okay? Then beyond the Six of Swords, 5, 6, 7 of Swords, looks like a man carefully treading around swords. It's like he's walking on eggshells, sort of, right? And that card represents that after you move on to smoother waters, it doesn't mean you're in the clear necessarily. It means that you still have to tread carefully, tread mindfully with your conscious awareness, make choices so that you don't have to keep looking over your shoulder, so that you don't have to keep worrying that you're recreating the past. So when you move from this 5 to the 6 to the 7, the goal is that you carry this awareness that you're cultivating right now into the future of your decisions, so that you first in mind and then in action manifest a new beginning, manifest a better future. So the work you do now will determine the later parts of the story, as always. Okay? So depending on the work you do now, that 7 of Swords will have you either just being mindful, staying present, and being careful about your choices. Or it will have you looking over your shoulder, anxious and worried about the karma that's on its way because of your poor choices that you are still making. So how do you want to feel when you get ahead in the story? How do you want to feel when you're at that 6 of Swords, when you're at that 7 of Swords? The work you do now determines your path later. That's just the way that things work, always. And another aspect of this challenge is this. Don't cut corners, okay? And we unconsciously do that when we move through our process too quickly, when we say, oh God, I feel defeated, but I'm gonna stay positive, I'm just move ahead. While that might seem positive, that you're just being all cheerful about it, I was gonna be progressive, you have to understand the concept that a new dimension isn't just manifested. A new dimension is fabricated using the previous dimension. A new dimension is birthed from the previous dimension. You have to work with the compost to get to the flowers. Okay, so you are going to make the most of your defeat if you be the alchemist that you are and stay present through the defeat. Don't try to rush, because you will cut corners. Make the most of every part of this process. it's represented by the picking up of these swords. Instead of rushing past, how can you look at the mess around you and give new purpose to each part of that mess? Repurposing each part, enlivening it with purpose that's going to serve your future in a positive way, enlivening each part with intention so that each of those parts, as you put them together, become the bridge that you walk over to cross to the other side. Now think of that. Each of those pieces, as you transmute them, become another step on that bridge to the other side. Now, if you leave some pieces behind or you ignore some pieces and you don't fully want to integrate that mess and turn those coals into diamonds, each time you skip over a part, you're leaving that bridge weaker. You're leaving weak spots on the bridge for that bridge to fall apart as you're crossing it. You're setting yourself up for failure. It's self-sabotage. When you deny parts of your pain or deny parts of your process or deny parts of the defeat, you're simply missing out on what otherwise could be opportunities for you in the future. You cut corners and you think, yeah, I made it to the other side, success. But how sustainably did you make it to the other side? The more you stay present with the mess, with the defeat, really learn from it, listening to the voice behind it. What is it showing you? What is it teaching you? The more you can make of that experience and allow that compost to become the flowers that are your future, right? So this is the challenge and gift of the week. On the challenging end, it looks like, God, I really feel defeated. On the gift end, it looks like, oh, this is actually an opportunity. Wherever I'm not feeling fulfilled is an opportunity for me to look at that and say, well, what brought me here? And how can I refashion the pieces, rewire the neural pathways, which is represented by the picking up of the swords, to create a newer, better reality? This is the focus of the week. Oh my God, I can't make this up. What we're moving toward. Whoa! We don't need the cards to do the reading, but the cards certainly back us up. When you're in tune with the truth will back you up in the form of all things. Even these cards are holy. Everything comes from the one. So check it out, you guys. It's a 7 of Swords. I just described this card. We had the 5, we spoke about the 6 being the bridge, moving on to the other side, and then the 7 is when you're on the other side. So he picked up the swords, now he's carrying them, but how much does he have to look over his shoulder? His fear and his hesitation, it's all reflecting his own lack of integrity. That fear is coming, and there's a man here and there's a man here, and that's just speaking to our masculine archetype, to our masculine polarity, which is the active polarity. So we're talking about our actions really here, okay? We're talking about our activity, our choices that we act upon. When we get to this part of the story, which remember, we pulled this card in the placement of the future. So this is a peek into the future. Obviously, we're moving ahead in the story. So when we get to this part of the story, depending on what we do now, we will either be worried about our karma because we didn't do the work, we didn't fully integrate the message of defeat, we didn't fully look at that, we denied parts of the experience, and each part that we denied is then that creating or contributing to that anxious feeling that we have in our bellies, in our minds, in our hearts, in our body, that causes us to have this response where we're always looking over our shoulder or always expecting the worst. That expectation of the worst is our own expectation of ourselves because we're not doing our best, so we don't expect the best in reflection. Deep inside, we all know the truth that the universe is a mirror, it's a reflection. And even if we don't accept that consciously as the truth, deep inside, we all are connected to that truth. It's a part of who we are. And so we're going to feel that. The connection's a little off today, so thanks for your patience. We're going to feel that anxiety of our own self-deception. So don't deceive yourself. Don't deny any part of your reality. especially the uncomfortable ones. That's where you want to look the most. Take your time, be present with the process, because each moment or each part of the process that you deny is going to come up later. In a karmic way, it's going to come back to you. So when we get to this point in the story, like I said, you'll either be looking over your shoulder, worried because of your own self-deception and your own lack of effort, or you'll be at this part of the story simply consciously and gracefully, carefully putting the pieces together, carrying them, making sure that you're not leaving anything behind. And notice he has more in his hands than are on the ground, sort of like the Five of Cups card, right? And that's that whole idea of quality over quantity. You might think you've got it all together and you're like, yeah, there's only 2 leaving behind. But quality over quantity, those 2 you're leaving behind are still 2 very important, if not 2 of the most important pieces. Just because all the pieces look the same doesn't mean that, you know, that they're all unique. They're all unique parts of the process. You need to carry them all with you. You need to have all your ish together. You know what I'm saying? You can't deny one part of yourself or leave a part of yourself behind. That's an illusion. You're playing yourself when you think you can do that. You can't leave any of the pieces behind. That translates all the way through to the reason we do these collective readings is because we need each other. We can't ascend or bring heaven to earth without each other. It's about the collective. And you are a microcosm of that entire collective. So when you leave a piece behind, you leave a piece of us behind, not just yourself. It's your spiritual duty and responsibility. It's the whole reason you came here is to make sure you keep it all together and carry those parts with grace. Carry those parts conscientiously. Tread carefully, not because you're worried about the effects of your own self-deception, not because you're worried about that bad karma on its way, but because you care. Because you know how valuable each part is. And you know how important it is to place those. Okay, we're back. Continuing on. Because you know how important it is to have all of the pieces together, and you know how important it is in any given moment to be aware of the not just proper placement of those, but the optimal placement of those pieces in relation to one another. Okay, so right now we're going, I don't really like how I've pieced the pieces together. I don't really like where they've brought me, but it's for a reason. And now I'm going to put the pieces back together, put my thoughts back together, put my strategy back together in the way that's going to serve the whole, not just me, but the whole in the best way possible. Okay, so this is a glimpse into the future. You're either saying, oh, I can leave some behind and that's going to incur negative karma, or you're going to be at a place where you're going, oh, I'm really aware. I'm aware that I almost left this part behind. Let me continue to carry the pieces. I made a dedication in this moment to pick the pieces back up. In the future, even though it's going to be hard work to rebuild, I'm not going to give up at any point on the path. I'm going to keep this original goal in mind. And I'm not going to all of a sudden, when it gets hard, when I'm carrying these pieces and it gets hard and I drop one, go, oh, well. No, I'm going to carry this integrity forth. I'm going to carry this integrity forward. I'm never going to forget this lesson. I'm going to be careful and conscientious. I'm going to do my full duty, not leaving any one piece behind. And I'm setting that blueprint right now. Okay, following me so far, you guys? Awesome. Okay, and the Hebrew letter ally of the week is the letter Pe. And the hieroglyphic symbol that's associated with this Hebrew letter is the mouth. And actually, this is directly related to the Torah story of tonight's Shabbat and also the message for the week ahead. I did make a video on it, so check it out. You'll see again and again and again how the tarot and Torah are really one, how it's all really one. Okay, so this is the ally of the week. It's the Pe, it's the mouth. And the mouth is a symbol of God's expression, which then is translated into our individual lives as our expression or our response to the universe, our response to life. What we choose to say is also what we choose to think and what we choose to do. The mouth is the bridge for those. It's the expression of all of those layers. And so it's very interesting because tonight's Torah story is called Metzorah. When you break that title up into two words, Motzirah, it's about speaking negativity. And the whole story holds a message about what that does when we respond to life negatively and how it comes right back to us. Again, I have the whole video if you want to watch it, check it out. Also, this is the Shabbat before Pesach or Passover, which basically, when you look at all of that metaphorically, it's saying this is the special day where we prepare for the ritual of Passover, which represents liberation. Maybe you want to look at it as Easter. Maybe you want to look at it as springtime, whatever you want to call it. Nature is reflecting to us that a liberation is on the way. And right now is the time to prepare for that. We're always preparing now for what's to come. This reading is such a clear representation of that truth. And so the pei representing the mouth is perfectly aligned with the Torah story. It's perfectly aligned with Pesach. By the way, Pesach, which is the Hebrew word for Passover, Pesach. It's the mouth speaks, right? So the focus is on what is our response? How are you responding, right? The mouth representing the response. Our ally asks us to remember this week as we move through this challenge, how are you responding? What are the thoughts, words, and actions of choice as you're moving through this experience of defeat or a lack of fulfillment? Are you choosing to respond to it with negativity or with positivity? With regret or with resolve? And remember, the better your response, the better the karma, not just for you, but for all. In fact, if you consider the collective in this process, you amplify the effects of that positivity, of that positive karma. Because there's no you without we. There's no me without we, right? So the pei as our ally is reminding us, your mouth, your expression, your response. How are you going to respond right now at this moment of feeling defeated or feeling unfulfilled? Instead of choosing to respond with negativity, leaving you trapped in self-victimization, leaving you trapped in speaking poorly about yourself and about others, thus promoting imbalance, disease, sickness, decay, death. Choose instead to use your expression. Use your mouth, use your words, use your thoughts, use your actions to respond progressively, to respond with the collective in mind, to respond from a place of connectivity to all of life, responding with positivity so that instead of that death, you promote rebirth, which is the truth because death is an illusion. You promote rebirth, you promote healing, you promote wholeness and holiness, togetherness, unity. It's all about your response. And your response to this will determine how you experience this. Your response to what's happening now will determine what you experience in the future. This is universal truth. This is always applicable. But the reason this is coming up, particularly in the reading, is because this is our focus at this point in time and space. This is our priority focus. Just like I explained earlier, there's always a primary elemental association. Of course, all of the cards are applicable always, but this right here is our primary association. This is our map, our access point into the rest of the story. I also wanted to share with you guys that the Hebrew letter Pei is the 17th letter of the Hebrew Aleph Bet. And the 17th card in the tarot is the Star card. And the Star card is all about the light within. So when you connect that Star card to the message of the Hebrew letter Pei and the mouth, it reminds us that from that space of light within, that star within, which by the way, 17, the star, when you reduce to a single digit, is 8, revealing the keynote card of the star, which is actually balance. So when we tune into that balance, that infinite, eternal balance within our hearts, that is the star or the light that shines the way. It's that moral code. It's the law. It's the truth. It's the love. It's the light at our center. That is the star that we ultimately are. Therefore, our expression should be one that reflects that light. That is a voice for, mouth, a voice for the light of the star inside, which is the light of harmony, of eternal balance. It's all connected. Okay, so allow that light inside of the star to be your guiding light. Allow it to be expressed and actualized through you, through your mouth, through your words, which first are your thoughts, then become your words, which are one with your actions. Allow the light of your truest essence to be that expression, so that when you respond to the current defeat or the current feeling of being unfulfilled, or any challenge you're going through, any suffering you're going through, any imbalance you're going through that this card represents, if you stay connected to this ally, this awareness, this archetypal wisdom that your expression should be representing that light within, then you will no doubt effortlessly respond to these feelings, which we first want to respond with negativity. We want to mirror it, right? But instead, you'll respond with that light, which is the light of compassion, understanding. It's the light of connectedness to our oneness. So if you're responding with that light, you're responding to your situation with the awareness that we're all one. So then your response becomes progressive. Your response provides a resolution instead of regret. When you respond from that place and you let that place speak through you, it heals everything. It does it all. You don't even need to do anything. You're simply carried by it. You allow it to show you the way. You're just its ally. We're each other's ally. That's it. That's what this is all about. So instead of responding with ego, you respond with that light. And you end up then putting the pieces back together in the best way that you possibly can, because it's beyond your human understanding. In that way, you respond with the light of the Creator, which is an awareness beyond our human perception, beyond our human limitations. And then you pick the pieces back up and you move into a future that is directed by that highest light. And no piece will get left behind. You don't even have to worry about that. You'll never be looking over your shoulder because you are just walking carefully, mindfully, with absolute faith in each moment. And in that way, you never have to worry about looking back or getting knocked off your horse. You never have to worry about any piece or any one getting left behind, because you are walking with and as the one, which contains all. So you guys, nature and the cosmos holds these codes for us in any given moment that we can access and attune ourselves to, so that we can move through this part of the life cycle individually and collectively with the most grace. And all of these holidays and all of these religions like Passover and Easter are reflecting that internal process that is unavoidable. So celebrate in your own way. Be guided by the signs and symbols in nature and in the stars and in yourself, so that you can get those answers, you can get those keys, you can get those codes to be able to consciously and willfully participate in an inevitable, organic, beautiful process, which is all leading toward our shared ultimate purpose and master plan of bringing heaven to earth. So if you're celebrating Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, regardless, do you know what that means, Shabbat Shalom? It means I wish you peace and joy and health and life as the worlds merge into one. I wish you wholeness. I wish that for everyone. I don't care whether you're celebrating or not. We're all going through the same process. So I wish for you that it is a meaningful process, that it's an awakened process, so that you can, with all of your senses and with all of your being and with all of your love and your free will, choose to participate in this process, knowing it as inevitable and also knowing it as beautiful. My hope for you is that you find every bit of inspiration to want to choose to be a part of this process, because when you know this process, this natural process, for what it really is, you'll be sacrificing anything in order to be fully in the process. And that's why we're here. That's why we have free will, so that we can choose to be a part of it. Our Creator doesn't want us to be blindly obedient. Our Creator wants us to say, I want to be a part of this process. So my prayer for you is that you find the magic in the symbols, in the universal language of symbolism, as it is in these cards, but also as it is all around us, above us, within us, so that you can begin to get more in touch with the cycle, with yourself, so that we can do this work together, so that we can bring heaven to earth here now by knowing it already is. We are here now. Heaven is here now. Shalom, you guys. Thank you so much for being with me through this activation. I've had so much fun meeting new clients this week for one-on-one readings. If you've had an interest in having a one-on-one reading, please reach out to me. info@royalpathtarot.com. info@royalpathtarot.com. Or you can also go to royalpathtarot.com and find all the links to my social media pages there. You can also just private message me. Chances are I won't see your comment. So if you're really wanting to book a session, please reach out to me privately in one of those ways I mentioned. If you're interested in learning more about my teachings and my perspective on the tarot, please ask me about how you can order my books, Royal Path Tarot 1 and Royal Path Tarot 2. The first one is on the major archetypes. The second one goes deeper into the elemental suits beyond the manipulations that are taught in modern times around tarot. I also have a video course, a class on each of the major arcanum cards that is different from the book because it goes into the particular symbolism, the occult symbolism and imagery of each of the cards. And each of those classes is an hour to an hour and a half long. So please reach out to me if you wanted a class on a particular card or if you want the whole course. And any other questions, please feel free to reach out anytime. I'm so happy to share these offerings with you guys. I'm so glad that it resonates with you. And if you've been coming to these activations, or even if this is your first one and you got something from it and it helped you or touched your heart in some way, please consider leaving me a review, facebook.com/royalpathtarot. Or if you can't figure out how to do that, just send me a review in an email or a private message about, how this has affected your life or how it's made you feel or what revelation it has allowed you to see. And then feel free to share my pages with your family and friends and get them in the activation portal so that we can grow our family of light and do more powerful things through our unification. I love you guys. Have an awesome weekend. Shalom.